All right, daybreak, after a long overnight shift at my shop, when something real finally happens. I want to tell you a story about an incredibly scary airway case and how we developed the psychological safety to handle it like a team. The case is a 20-year-old male who's been shot in the neck. And he comes crashing through the door of the emergency department just minutes after his injury, awake, alert, speaking, saying that he doesn't want to die. And he had a look about him like he just might. Now, he had a transcervical gunshot wound. Entry, left posterior neck, exit, right anterior neck. Right through the big house, baby, right down Broadway. And there was an expanding anterior neck hematoma that was rapidly compromising his airway. This was the definition of a dynamic airway case, and one where seconds and minutes really, really mattered. Now, we faced the usual challenge of ad hoc teams. There was no notification time, so the teams were just coming in dribs and drabs and bits and pieces, and we were struggling to get everyone up to speed on the case. And the anesthesia and airway team came in pieces as well. First the respiratory therapist, then the junior registrar, then the senior registrar, then the fellow. And the anesthesia fellow's anxiety was palpable, and it was expressed as anger and agitation and paralysis in action. I'm not picking on anesthesia. If we're being honest here, I was losing my shit as well. But as that conflict progressed, minutes were ticking by, and the likelihood of failure was going up and up and up. And failure in this context would probably mean death for the patient, not for the registrar. He was going to be fine. So success in this environment is team-based. Nobody would question that. You've heard a lot of this conference so far about the importance of maintaining a performance mindset in challenging situations. I think the real challenge here is moving from getting the best out of ourselves to the best out of our team, even if we're not particularly keen on the team that we've been given. See, teams are manufactured for a purpose, but at their core, they're social systems. They're made of people. And if we want to understand how teams function or fail to function, it's important that we understand the social interactions between team members. So think for a moment about what an individual wagers when they walk into a team environment, especially one where psychological safety doesn't really exist. Amy Edmondson, a scholar on safety and psychological safety, speaks of the 4 interpersonal risks that people take in a team environment. If you ask a question, you might be viewed as ignorant. If you make a mistake, you're incompetent. If you question a process or a way of doing things, you're negative. And to avoid looking intrusive, people are pretty typically reluctant to ask for feedback on their performance. Conversely, think of the length to which we are usually willing to go to avoid looking stupid in a social situation. At parties, I'll often spend minutes, if not hours, sitting in the bathroom so I can avoid potentially awkward social interactions with people, and the stakes there aren't particularly that high. I'm like an inverse Liz Crow in that circumstance. Look for it tonight, you'll see it. But that creates incredibly negative behavioral feedback loops, right? If you are punished for asking a question, then you will learn to fear that punishment moving forward, and then you won't ask any questions the next time. And that's toxic for patient safety in a team environment. Well, the key to facilitating more productive social interactions between team members is psychological safety. And that's defined as the shared belief that the team is safe for interpersonal risk-taking, that it's okay to ask questions, to challenge assumptions, to question if we're doing the right thing. And psychological safety is correlated with all sorts of pro-safety behaviors like error reporting. It encourages code generation, shared leadership, team-based learning. And not only is it key to safety in teams, but it's also incredibly elusive, with up to 50% of ICU teams reporting an absence of psychological safety in their environment. Think about that for a sec. Half of the time, ICU teams don't believe they have the sufficient psychological safety to look after a patient. That's pretty mind-blowing. Now, psych safety is a psychological state. It's not a personality trait. It's not a thing. It's something that you have to create. And that's incredibly important because it makes it a very versatile performance tool. What it means is with the right set of tools, you should be able to generate psychological safety in any environment, regardless of context or composition or the ad hoc nature of teams. The question is, how do you make psychological safety spread in your team environment? Contagion. A contagion, an infectious disease, is defined as a disease that is spread between individuals via direct or indirect contact. But contagion isn't necessarily related to disease only. It can also refer to affective and emotional and behavioral things as well. Think of the last time you yawned and everyone else in the room started to yawn along with you. Well, Suarez and Lopez, authors of the Social Contagion paper, define the phrase social contagion as the manner in which team members adopt the attitudes and behaviors of the people around them. See, by viewing a team as a tightly coupled social network, it becomes possible to understand how psychological safety can spread throughout any team environment. And they describe three key features of the social contagion process: the attributes of the central member or team leader, the process by which that team leader interacts with other team members in their social network, and the ties or relationships between various members of the team. And we're going to use this as a framework to describe three key challenges and three simple solutions for creating psychological safety in any environment. All right, so problem one, this case started like you were getting shot out of a cannon, right? There was no time, no pre-briefing, no time to get set up, no time to get ready. And in that circumstance where the team is forming in bits and pieces, it's important or essential for you as the team leader or central member, regardless of your professional discipline, to make sure that you're making people feel welcome and safe as they enter into that challenging environment. In fact, if psychological safety is a contagion, then the central member of the team is the patient zero for an epidemic of advanced team performance. Now I have a bit of an embarrassing admission for all of you. When I was in university, I worked at the Gap, hawking cheap khakis on the North American populace. And every now and then in that job, you would get stuck with the greeter role. You would stand at the door and welcome people into the store. I don't know if anyone has done that work before. It's awful. But through a few thousand repetitions of standing there going, hi, hello, welcome to the Gap. Hi, hello, oh, hi, hello, hi, welcome to the Gap. Hi, go F yourself, welcome to the Gap. I believe I learned the importance of welcoming people into an unfamiliar environment. And Edmondson would talk about this as expressing a certain sense of situational humility and curiosity about what people bring to a novel situation. My good friend Tom Evans is a hemstock and emergency physician in London. And he's also a former Olympic rowing coach. He knows a thing or two about how to get the best out of other people. And in challenging pre-hospital environments, he likes to bring his team together with the following phrase: I'm glad I'm here with you to do our best. Now, if those are the first words out of your mouth to a stranger, it might look a little bit weird. Regardless of the specific verbiage, though, it's the concept that matters. And it speaks to a key challenge of the central member of a team. How quickly can you, as a central member, make other people feel welcome and safe in a strange environment so that you can better appraise their skill set and figure out how that integrates with the broader team picture? All right, problem number 2 was wayfinding, or the contagion process. Now, this scenario was rapidly going from, I think we could intubate from above, to, I don't know that we're going to be able to intubate from above and we might need to cut the neck. And so like any dynamic situation, the mental model needed to be updated periodically to reflect that. Question is, how do you update a mental model like that while everyone else still experiences that same sense of comfort and psychological safety in a dynamic environment? This is the Gardner Expressway in Toronto, where I live, and it never looks like this. It's usually a deeply depressing snarl of traffic congestion. But a few years back, they put up these signs, and they don't usually contain a positive affirmation like this one does. Usually what they display are times. They say 8 minutes to the Jameson exit, 12 minutes to Highway 427. And it's remarkable when you're sitting in that traffic how this simple little bit of information can help you make sense of an otherwise frustrating and upsetting and complex situation. Well, there are a variety of ways to provide these updates or snap briefs or tactical pauses. This is the 10 for 10 framework that espouses 10-second updates every 10 minutes in a complex resuscitation. So to recap, we have a rapidly expanding anterior neck hematoma that's compromising the airway. Happening now is we're doing a fiber optic intubation with video laryngoscopy assist. Next steps are we're going to dissociate with ketamine and keep the patient breathing. We're going to prioritize our first pass success, but we're going to set up for a surgical backup if necessary. Now, who's doing what? That's your 10 for 10 update. And that keeps people feeling safe and comfortable because it sets a sense of shared priorities and goals and expectations for what's going to come next. But I believe it has to do more than that. I think that pause needs to be a two-way discussion. I think in a stressful situation, if all you do is look around in the room and say, anything else, you're not going to get very much back. I like the phrase, what am I missing? And the reason I like that phrase is because it presupposes that me, as the central member, as the team leader, is actually overlooking something, and I think that's important. Remember that psychological safety is the permission to take risks, interpersonal risks. And so when I say, what am I missing, that presupposes that I'm missing something, and my belief is it helps other people to take that risk as well. Okay, so back to the case. This is where we ended up. Now, we talked about our plan A, and we talked about our plan B and our backup behaviors, but we still were having trouble getting the case moving. And there was a lot of paralysis in terms of action. My contagion moment came through voice and physicality. I sat down on the edge of the bed. I looked directly at the airway team. Surgical airway kit open, neck prepped, cricothyroid membrane identified, scalpel in hand. And I said to the airway team, welcome to the gap. No, I didn't. I said, it's okay. You make your first attempt. You make your best attempt. We talked about this. And if it doesn't succeed, I'm ready to cut the neck. Suarez and Lopez would call that contagion by cohesion, a direct connection between team members that facilitates action. And you know what? That was enough. That got the process rolling. And when our primary attempts failed and we declared a KICO scenario, we cut the neck. And as you can see, the patient ended up with the number 6 endotracheal tube through their cricothyroid membrane. And he did just fine. All right. Problem 3 is the aftermath. So show of hands here, how many people in this room routinely debrief clinical events like this as a team? Yeah, I feel we can do better than that. We didn't debrief this case, and that was a real regret of mine. This speaks to the importance of maintaining ties or relationships between team members. If you want psychological safety to carry forward into your next case, you have to provide a venue for discussion after each challenging situation. Now, my belief is the hot debrief, the debrief that happens in the immediate period after a case like this, needs to focus on safety. 2 elements of safety in particular: safety of systems and the safety of people within those systems. So the safety of systems thing is a bit of a no-brainer, right? If you do a hot debrief and you identify a process or a bit of equipment or something that's going to threaten the next patient, you have to identify that now, and it needs to be addressed before the next case rolls through the room. But you also have to address the psychological safety of team members as well. Because regardless of the outcome of a case, there will invariably be people in that room that wonder why you did what you did, why we made the decisions that we made, why didn't we do something else? And you have to provide a venue for people to speak that. If you don't, it gets buried, it gets pushed underground, it festers, and that can become toxic to team performance moving forward. Give that dissent a voice, and I promise you, you'll watch your teams grow. I don't know about you, but when I'm taking a deep dive into a challenging situation with my teams, I want every performance tool available to me. I'm just not that smart or talented to do it on my own. And psych safety might sound like kind of a soft skill, but it's really a key performance tool for fixing hard shit. This is how you get stuff done as a team. So how do you make psych safety spread like a contagion through your team environment? Well, first you have to step up. If you're the central team member, you have to express through voice and physicality a sense of welcoming and comfort to those entering the room. Be the greeter at the gap. I'm glad I'm here with you to do our best. Then you have to keep pace. You have to provide those updates, those priorities in a dynamic fashion as the situation changes, but it can't be a one-way discussion. It needs to be a two-way street. and you have to take that risk and express that humility yourself. What am I missing? And finally, recover. Debrief all high-risk clinical events. In fact, debrief everything if you can, with a focus on safety of systems, and in particular, the psychological safety of team members, so that carries forward into your next resuscitation. The reality is, positive emotion helps to solve problems. And to paraphrase Delta 7, if you were a dick in resus last time, it's going to be hard to get people to follow along the next time you guys have to go into the room together. To be that positive contagion, you have to carry that thing, that positivity with you in pretty much everything that you do, with your friends, with your family, whether it's the CEO of your organization or the person that serves you Tim Hortons coffee in the cafeteria. Be a positive social contagion in all that you do and carry the fire. Thank you.